Welcome back everyone once again to another SnowRunner video. Today, we're going to continue the truck request series. Here's the comment on screen of the Western Star TwinSteer, and here are all the upvotes. Thank you guys so much. It was a close battle between this and I believe the Step 310 Echo. So you guys eluded the old saddle pusher from telling you to use a low saddle essentially in this installment. So you escaped that. So thank you guys so much for the participation. It's been great. If you guys would like to see another base game vehicle, please leave a comment in the comment section, and whatever comment is the most upvoted for the base game vehicles, that's the next one we'll feature on the channel. So, which I hope it's the Step 310, because I would like to tell you guys to use the saddle low again. Just kidding. Anyways, the TwinSteer is a truck that is very punishing, but it's probably the most rewarding vehicle in the game. I will say this, it scales with player skill. A lot of this game is just about seeing things coming beforehand and then not as much reacting. It's just more so understanding what's about to happen and then just kind of making adjustments before they happen, not as they're happening. Making adjustments as something's happening is just part of player skill. But in this vehicle here, I will say this, it can either be a hated vehicle or a loved vehicle, or it could either be an S tier vehicle for you or a D tier vehicle for you. And I think that's also depending on your player skill. I'm going to be straight up honest with you. If you want to see if a player is good, put them in a TwinSteer with a high range gearbox, race suspension, and single narrow track tires, and have them deliver cargo. I think at that point, you'll figure out how good they are. So that's just my point of view. A player who is absolutely fantastic in this truck is Timmy Gunn, speedrunner, friend of the channel. We're going to reference his channel a little bit here later. Go check him out. I'll actually put his link in the description as well. He is absolutely amazing. He was actually breaking records in this vehicle without all-wheel drive. But now we know this vehicle does have all-wheel drive as of season 1. So that's kind of awesome, right? So in my perspective of this vehicle, when I first rolled up on it, my first time ever, Island Lake, Michigan, has all-terrain tires, no all-wheel drive, just diff lock. It can get itself out of the hole it's in just by applying diff lock. That is shown on my mud running tips video if you'd like to see that as well. We kind of show that there. But I immediately threw it out because it didn't have always on all-wheel drive, always on diff lock. So I was in that state of mind, right? I didn't really understand the strength of this vehicle. I saw no add-ons, all this other stuff. I was like, yeah, see you later. Peace out. And then I came back to it. And I think when I came back to it, it's like one of those things, man, whenever you kind of try to change your perspective, your experience with them changes because your perspective changes. So that's kind of that's like what I went through as a newer player back in 2020 and then early 2021, right? So moving in here to the garage tour here, has a very strong engine. 2450 is found in Pedro Bay. I believe both these are found in Alaska. So you don't have a lot of engine power right off the rip in Michigan when you find it, but this used to be the number 2 engine in the game at 250,000 torque. It has very high fuel consumption. It's shared with the 5600 TS, I believe both big cats actually. There might be another one, I'm not sure. It's kind of crazy. My memory is not serving me very well right now. But it's a very big engine still to this day, and it's a very costly engine as of fuel consumption. Big fuel tank here at 96 gallons. It will still rip through it pretty quick, but if you can move at rapid paces with this high range gearbox, it doesn't really matter too much because you're covering so much ground on 63-inch tires, which the 63-inch tires have a requirement of a race suspension, unlike the MH9500 did in our last video. So that's how you can get going really quick. The high range will move very rapidly, especially on 63s. You will move much faster in this vehicle in a high range gearbox than you will with something with 50s, 40s, whatever you want to call it. It's very fast. Bigger tires just run quicker. Now, I will say this though, the vehicle in general struggles to stay on its wheels. And I think that could be a little bit of how it's played. And I'll talk about ways to keep this on its wheels when we're in the driving portion. But for now, if you think that you cannot keep it on its wheels, you're having trouble and you keep going at it and you're using the single narrow track 63-inch tires, I would say this. First, your first bet here is going from a single narrow track, which I think is the best track to use if you're talking about just straight up performance. I would do that and actually downgrade to a JAT wide tire. So these are actually wide tires, single wides instead of single narrows. So that's going to give you a little bit more of a footprint down in the earth, give you a little bit more lateral stability, I believe. So this is kind of like the go-between, right? So you still have the raised suspension, you have better clearances, and then this is just widening out your footprint. Now, if you want to go full, I want the max stability that I can get in this vehicle, just downgrade to like a 55-inch OHD, which is actually a double in the back, or go with the JAT OHD, which is even wider than the regular OHD, and then just drop your suspension. So you won't have as much ground clearance, but you'll have, you'll be lower to the ground, so your CG will be lower, and then you also have, that width in the back as well. So those are all options, and you can even go with a JAT single wide in this configuration as well. So you have options. So I would say give it a shot. I would say start at whatever point you feel comfortable, and then just, play around with it. Also, heavy winch. Like I said, engageable diff lock, spear tire. I actually leave this on here because basically this is all already mapped. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. And it has pretty good clearances anyways. Tall caps. I think the duck head is okay because, well, I don't know. The double duck head doesn't look too bad to me on this vehicle for some reason because it's kind of boxy. So I actually kind of like it. And then it gets the all-wheel drive upgrade in Kola Peninsula on a Mondra as soon as you come through the gateway from, I believe, what's the first map called? Shoot, it's eluding me here. Lake Cove. When you come through the gateway from Lake Cove, it's basically off to your right. You have to climb up some icy rocks, icy slope, and get the upgrade. And then basically, yeah, you have a monster that turns into a crazed monster. So, and as you can see, there is nothing after the all-wheel drive because this vehicle just doesn't have any add-ons. It literally is how it comes right here. It's a 4-slot vehicle that is a specialist for hauling cargo. And that's what it does really good or really bad based upon your skill level. In my personal opinion, I think this is a very high tier vehicle, regardless of what I can do. So speaking of what I can do, let's go jump into some gameplay. I'll drive around. I'll talk about some ways that you can potentially keep this thing on its wheels at speed. And then I'll mention Timmy Gun here in that portion as well. So let's get to it. So as I mentioned in the garage tour, this vehicle is probably one of the more punishing vehicles to drive in the game, to be honest. Probably one of the most frustrating. And if I'm going to talk about my experience with this, I have to go back to the time that I was actually reviewing it. In my opinion, I believe that there is no better testing than in the actual game of SnowRunner running missions. And if you don't have missions to run cargo somewhere and doing that repetitively. And you basically just reset the surface by exiting the game or switching maps, coming back to the same area, running it again and again and again. And that's kind of what I would do. But in a lot of ways, trying to get to these places to test certain things I wanted to see, I would actually roll the truck over and it would be pretty frustrating because I'm just trying to get it done. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get my results. And then after the fact, I have to make or record videos and then cut the videos to show the examples. So it's a lot of process. So like it was a very frustrating review to make, to be honest, because I wanted to nail down my thoughts on it. And there was a lot of ways that it can be very frustrating. Nowadays we have the test map, and I will say that the test map is nice for showing extremes with like cargo pulling up hills. But in general, just showing performance, it gives you kind of a baseline on the test map going through those mud strips, but it's not the actual native game. And that's really, I think it's just a supplement, honestly. So I do use the test strip. I do use the test map for some things to kind of just like hammer home a concept. But in-game testing is where I still think is the king. So in a lot of ways, it was frustrating to make that video and also to test with this vehicle because I had to grow as a player. We talked about skill in the garage tour. And that's something that I had to grow. And I think my skill level actually increased from just making that video because it forced me to play this truck over and over and over again. And I'll kind of share some things, some tips here about how to drive this thing better. So some downsides: high centering. It's a long vehicle. It has good ground clearance, but if you're not going at high speed, you could potentially high center yourself just from the nature of the game, right? High fuel consumption. Stability, of course, we talked about that, with especially with weight on frame, which you will be hauling weight on frame. And then I would probably say add-ons. Even though I don't believe it should have like a small crane, stuff like that, I believe its roll-off bed and the actual winch attached could be something to roll up and auto or manually load, where you pull cargo up onto the roll bed. That would be kind of nice. Also, maybe adding that little saddle attachment. I can't get away from the saddle thing, guys. But there is a saddle placement in the back of this vehicle that could be nice. But man, that would be such a long entity to have this thing have a saddle, a 4-slot bed, right? So that could be a thing, honestly. Mentioning skill, I did mention Timmy Gunn, and I want to actually put up his channel here on screen. He is a speedrunner. He is the best driver I've seen in this game to date. I know he has even taken breaks from playing and then come back, and then basically just went on this world record breaking spree with this vehicle here, and it's been kind of crazy. Even his runs without all-wheel drive are absolutely insane. So please go watch him. He is an absolute phenom when it comes to this game. That is what I mean by your skill level. If you have good skill with this truck, the things you can do are just absolutely insane. So the main question you're probably asking, and you probably want to know, is how to keep this thing on its wheels. If you're a person who struggles keeping the TwinSteer on its wheels when you're hauling cargo, there is a way that you can do this. And if you watch Timmy Gunn play, there's something he does, and this is something I figured out back in the day, actually, when I was doing this review, is to keep the truck on its wheels. You would think that driving fast makes its stability worse, which is true, but there's something that you can do to actually make its stability better at speed. And that is essentially rolling out your tires when you start to list over to your one side. You're gonna see I've been doing this the whole time through this video. What do I mean by that? I mean letting go of your steering control. If you have your steering controller, if you're playing on controller right now and you have the steering wheel set, when you let go of your inputs, your tire will center out. Well, the TwinSteer, although it doesn't turn crazy sharp, it turns decently well, and its tires actually recenter pretty quick. So when you feel like you're tipping over and you're in high gear, and in instances that you can let off your turn, just let go, and it will actually bring all 8 of your tires back down on the surface, and then just add a gradual turn into it. So if you're tipping over, just roll out first. If that doesn't help, give yourself a slight turn to the side you're tipping on, and then you'll get right back down, let go, and then just basically veer over again. So just small corrections. So you'll see Timmy Gunn do that a lot. That's how you'll see that the truck will violently shake up and down, but you'll see his tires, they're straight, because he's using straight line speed and momentum to hit new terrain, to basically put him back on his wheels. And that is kind of the X factor with the TwinSteer, is speed is actually your friend. Sometimes going slow over obstacles, and I kind of found this out too, can actually harm you, because you're not touching more terrain with wheels in front of you because your wheel base is so long, right? So if you're tipping over now, you need to reach other terrain to basically stable yourself, right? But if you can't, you just tip over, basically. If you guys want to see more instances of me driving this truck with slate blocks, which I believe driving with slate blocks is the hardest missions to do in this truck. I did it in this video right here on stream with dualies. Then I also turned around and did it with, I believe, 63-inch tires. So go check out this video. I'll link that too as well. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I hope this video did help you out and kind of give you some insights to how you can keep the TwinSteer on your wheels. There are options, there are references out there. You have Timmy Gunn to look at, and also you can look at this review and also the video I posted of me hauling slate blocks. If you just look at those videos and see what I'm doing in certain instances, or even watch what he's doing, it'll show you that recentering your tires and speed can be a helpful resource to keeping yourself on your wheels. So I really hope this video was enjoyable, and I also hope you learned a few things along the way as well. So until next time, y'all, God bless and stay upright.